Three unqualified morons with microphones. This is the previously recorded podcast. All right, welcome to Previously Recorded. I'm your host, RP, as always, and this episode of Previously Recorded is brought to you by Totally Tees. If you need a shirt and you don't have one,
call Totally Tees, they'll get it done.
Yeah, now who's
Yeah.
lagging, bitch?
what?
Said now who's lagging, bitch?
Still
Like
you.
Nobody else sang it, to be honest. Yeah.
But as
I'm
you
kind
can,
of on my own there.
as you can hear, we are having not in completely in sync because we are remote today, broadcasting from around the world, the globe, the earth, Arrakis. I don't know.
Really, we're at Epcot, and we're just in different areas of Epcot.
We're filming this while we're on location.
Coming at you live.
While we're on location. But joining me as always are my two co-hosts, Bob and Shane. What is going on, gentlemen?
So
Not much. Just hydrating.
And returning to the podcast, making his victorious return, is producer Nick. Nick,
Alright.
welcome back, man. How are you?
Good. I don't know how we're having audio issues. I fine-tuned the cans this morning and thought they'd be good to go.
First off, fuck you. Okay.
I don't like that you said returning, though, because Nick's never left because he produces every episode.
Well, we went over it last time when we do Zoom. He's not here because he's got better things to do.
it's also to me that Nick said that one episode sounded like we were recording through a tin can, and then when he joins, his audio was shit.
That's how he knows what a tin can sounds like so well.
I should have let him stay. I should have let him keep it because that way we could have all laughed at him. And his face would
You're
have
the one
been
who recommended using the headphones, and I was like, I never use headphones in Zoom.
sometimes it sounds good.
The lower quality ones.
Sometimes it sounds good. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it's shit. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. But gentlemen, we have a lot to get into today. We have an action-packed 6-hour podcast for you guys today. But before we get into our topics, there's a little bit of house cleaning per se we have to go over. So the last time that all three of us recorded an episode, we ended it with a very controversial topic that we had to phone a friend. And it was, is candy corn good? Yes or no? We opened this up to the general public along
Which
with,
friend did we phone? Was that when Nick finally?
We phoned Nick. He backed me up.
we zoomed him in.
I was outnumbered.
Very divisive.
We opened it up to the general public on all of our fans, and we also opened it up to the wax pumpkins that some people somehow like, and the atrocious circus peanuts that producer Nick brought up. They're disgusting. So I figured we could just start there. I did this in a variety of ways. I put it on Instagram and I put it on Twitter. Twitter gives you the amount of people who voted. You could lifetime, you could see it. With Instagram, though, once the post is gone, even if you go in the archives, you can't see the amount. You can only see the percentage. So I broke everything down into a percentage. So for our circus peanuts, via all of our fans on Instagram and Twitter, a resounding 15% said yes. A whopping 34% said God no. And 52% said no. So
Basically, you're saying 15% of our fans are sociopaths.
Yeah, 15% of our fans, we no longer want as our fans, is what we're saying.
It is probably just my vote. That I'm gonna skew these numbers a little bit. Gotta help it out.
Nick voted on multiple platforms, so that's your 15%.
Nick made burner accounts just to boost the numbers up a little bit.
following that up, we had the pumpkins, which had a 62% no and a 38% yes.
Okay.
Which whatever. If you
I'm not a
like
big
those.
fan of the pumpkins. The candy corn is what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I almost sent a text the other day. I had it typed out, and I think I got distracted because when I opened up the text like today, it was still typed there. Hey, if anybody sees candy corn, can you grab it? I haven't had any this season.
Nick actually wanted a bag for tonight.
Candy corn? Because
Yeah,
I
my
feel
mom.
like it's going to be pretty close to 50-50.
My mom yelled at me. She said, "Don't you know it's out of season now?" I'm like, "Come and go that quick?"
How dare she?
It expires fast. Short
So-
lifespan on candy corn.
So Nick texted me. He's like, my My mom couldn't find any, or he said he couldn't find any at the store. I said, did you check the dumpster?
Yeah, no candy corn for me all Halloween season.
All right, so candy corn. I also ran this poll on my own personal Instagram to get as many reactions as we could. And it's a close one. It is a close one. Shane did say he thought it would be closer to 50-50 than these other two. And I'm going to give you the lower number first, and you guys can guess if that is a yes or no. 43%.
Got to be a no.
I'm going yes. 43% yes.
Nick?
Going yes. Believe my people.
43% yes. Liked it. 57% said no. You guys are in the minority. That candy sucks. It doesn't belong anywhere.
Oh, so now all of a sudden
Oh.
minorities suck, RP. Oh,
All
okay.
right, so we're
I
also
see
here.
what's happening.
There's some Marvel news today. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. That was a very heated debate, and we'll have to revisit it next year, or revisit it again at Christmas time when we have Christmas candy between chocolate and candy canes.
No chocolate.
No chocolate.
So what's everyone been up to? What's everyone been watching, doing? Shane, you've been playing the Guardians of the Galaxy game, and you don't really have much to say about it.
It's not. It doesn't suck, but it's not like fun. It's kind of boring. I don't know. Right before I started playing Battlefront again, I was playing that right before we started recording.
It's a good game.
Yeah, it's not great. I don't know. It's just kind of boring.
Yeah, I'm gonna eventually get it.
Yeah, like you said, get the actual hard copy. So if it stinks, you can return it.
Yeah, Shane refuses to just go to the store and buy a game. He won't leave his house.
I'd rather just have it digital. It's easier.
Bob.
Dune. I watched Dune.
Yeah.
I finished How I Met Your Mother again. That was like my falling asleep show.
Yeah.
Still disappointing every time you watch it.
Yeah, but the last two seasons are good if you just ignore like the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would say that show sucks so much more if you watched it live on CBS than if you got to like skim through it, like binge it.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
watched.
Wait week in and week out for them.
If I had to wait week after
thing
week
over
for that ending, I would have been so mad.
Yeah, I watched it when it was on. I remember watching it. My whole family watched it, and then I'd never watched the ending. Like I knew how it ended, but I don't remember. I might have at some point, but I don't remember ever actually. Like I remember stopping watching the show. Like life happened, and I just kind of wasn't around on Monday nights or whenever it was on. But this is probably the first time I've sat and watched like the full 8th and 9th season through.
Yeah, I did that senior year of college. That was my one of my shows I binged, and I watched it here and there with my family. And I knew about the finale because of Mike and Mike in the Morning when it happened. Mike Golick was a big How I Met Your Mother fan, and he talked about the ending and how he didn't like it. So like I knew it was what was going to happen, but I can agree with Nick. If I had to wait week to week for the final season, as they do, it's 3 days is the entire season. I think that would have been very frustrating. While the way I watched it, I thought it was very enjoyable. I thought it was very
it's entertaining when it's like back to back to back to back. But yeah, that spanned out over 22 weeks. I'd probably break my teeth.
It was you spent we go, but then you get rehashed to me like, all right, I was told 20 times for 3 years that Robin he's not in love with her. Yeah. I'm gonna start believing.
Spoilers.
Spoiler
alert.
Spoiler alert for everyone. For the season finale was. What was that?
Spoiler alert, the first episode tells you everything you need to know.
2017, maybe it ended? I think it went 9 seasons, started in 09.
I feel like it's been a while now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Nick, watching, reading, listening to anything new? Any podcast?
New podcast?
We do.
Are you garbage? I tried, and you thought I was telling you that your podcast was garbage when I brought this one up to you. You're like, oh, that's rude. But no, Are You Garbage? Okay. Good comedy.
Is that the one you were telling me about on the way back from Eternals?
Yeah, the one where they're like, if
I want to check that one out.
Yeah, so they play a game. So it's pretty much any question is, did you grow up in Philadelphia? And we'll see if your childhood's very similar. but it's like any questions like, do any of your aunts and uncles go by a nickname? That's a clear indicator that you're probably trash.
That's a pretty funny concept.
Who runs that one again, Nick?
Ooh,
It's
I
not
forget
on the
what
previously recorded network, so who
No, no.
cares? But yeah, that you were telling me about that. That does seem pretty funny. So I guess go listen to that after you listen to our episodes. I've been spending a shit ton of time at the movie theater, really in the month of October. That's really all kind of I've been doing. So with that, there is some news that kind of broke today. So today was Disney there was an investor call heading into quarter 4. We are getting Disney Plus Day the day this episode releases. So there will be more news if you're listening as the day comes out.
Disney Plus Day, Shang-Chi and Jungle Cruise, correct?
Yep, that'll be on there. But today they announced that Miss Marvel and Andor will not be coming until quarter 4 of 2022. So I thought that Miss Marvel was going to be this year, like January, February area. So I don't know if that they have a lot that they want to work with that show. They did change her powers up. She's going to have similar to kind of like the Green Lantern, where it's going to be energy and not stretching, like she is in the comics and in the video game. And then Andor, who gives a shit?
I don't like the change to her powers. That's weird.
I don't know why. I think they don't want her to be too similar to Mr. Fantastic
Does that mean
before Mr. Fantastic comes into the MCU.
does that mean maybe we're getting a Fantastic Four sooner than we thought?
Well, yeah,
Mephisto.
Oh, Mephisto confirmed. Yeah. They said Fantastic Four 2023, I believe, or
okay.
Maybe I don't. They might not have put a date on it.
So they got to be from some other kind of dimension, right? That they have to account for why they didn't help.
Multiverse.
Like what they did with Eternals, where they're like, "Why didn't you stop Thanos?"
No, they're just going to ask a blatant question in the middle of the movie of why they didn't do it.
Or their result, they were in space during the snap and came back and they have power. Like, there's ways around that. They don't have to be from.
They all worse.
Does it have to be an origin movie too? Could they have already been Fantastic Four out doing things and then they come back?
I will say that maybe, but the Fantastic Four isn't as well known as, say, Spider-Man, like their origin story.
Yeah, but I mean,
like they've done the origin.
We've already gotten origin twice, right? Two live action.
Well, the second one we don't talk. That movie was.
I don't want to see Uncle Ben die again.
Well, we're not going to get that. So yeah, that was the news from that. Black Panther 2 delayed again due to its star, and this is the star of the movie, Letitia Wright. So U.S. requires all non-citizens to be vaccinated if you're coming into the country. She is not. That has been an issue on the set a little bit. But I guess they're going to do some filming in Atlanta where they do a lot of the Marvel properties. So that.
Do you think she's going to be the Black Panther, or do you think she's going to be something else and they're going to retire the Black Panther?
I don't know. Maybe initially.
I think she's going to be COVID positive is what I think.
I think they should retire it because
she got hurt on set. I thought that was.
She did. Well, that is too. She did get hurt on set. And so
got hurt in like August.
Mm-hmm. So they said she needed some more time. They were going to shut it down for a while. They pushed all the Marvel movies back. I think a little. They said it's production. I think a little bit is production. I think a little bit of it is not oversaturating the market. Because it would have been like 4 Marvel movies in a year, which is good for us. But add that on top of Disney Plus and stuff, the normal, movie going public, that might be a little bit much.
That's what I had. So if Miss Marvel gets pushed back, what fills the void in Disney Plus to carry you over?
Well, that's
their biggest problem with that streaming service.
That's a great question. Well, we do have the Book of Boba Fett coming in December, so that'll help.
Hawkeye coming in 2 weeks.
Yep, Hawkeye coming in 2 weeks as well. That'll be over like the week before Boba Fett, or the same week.
Is that short? How many episodes is that?
They haven't said.
When's Mando season 3 going to be, RP?
Mando season 3 might not be till next December.
Next December, I think, is kind of what
they're getting a bunch of other Star Wars shows too, like Ahsoka, Obi-Wan.
Well, the Disney Plus announcement, I think we might get Obi-Wan by summer. That's my guess.
Am I wrong? Are we getting an Ahsoka show?
Yeah, just not. It's like not there yet.
Yeah, okay. All of it's still in production.
When we did that Star Wars thing, and I listed like the 9 things that were being like, they were all just announced, but they don't have like dates or anything on them.
Yeah.
And they always lose
and-
directors who were attached. Really,
Yeah, like that Rogue Squadron is
Yeah,
now
that's-
permanently permanently delayed.
It's permanently delayed, but Chloe Zhao may be directing Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie.
Did you ever finish Bad Batch? I kind of fell.
Yeah,
off.
it stunk.
I kind of
Oh,
fell.
you didn't
Like
like it?
it's good for what it is, but it's just
Yeah.
it's
It could have been like 4 episodes. You know, it didn't have.
it could have been so much better. Like,
It
it's
didn't have
it's
to be a-
entertaining, but like I was expecting so much more. I like the Bad Batch, it just wasn't. It was dragged out.
I didn't need
Gotcha.
a full season of them. I could have been like
Exactly.
a little mini series.
And plus, like it was all about Omega, who's like a kid, or supposed to be like a kid. So then it felt like it was just Mandalorian, like these guys protecting this kid all the time.
Yeah, gotcha. But Nick, to answer your question, potentially She-Hulk might be the next Marvel property that hits Disney Plus. If yeah,
Do we know if she's going to be a lawyer?
I think so. Yeah,
I would
it's
really
gonna be a
enjoy if
legal
She-Hulk
drama.
is like Law and Order. Like they don't even acknowledge that she's She-Hulk. It's
I
like a
don't-
straight Law and Order show. It's just she's big and green.
There's rumor that Matt Murdock shows up, but it's a variant of Matt Murdock. I have no idea.
I think that would be really awesome, though. Just like a straight, like she's like yelling like Law and Order SVU on Disney Plus. I want SVU. I want special victims.
Does
I
Ice
don't know if that's the right.
Yeah, I want Ice Cube explaining things.
Good old John Mulaney bit. But just kind of wrap this up because we do have
Wait,
a lot.
can we talk
to
about
get to.
Spider-Man for a minute? I'm really not happy with how much is leaking from this movie.
So fuck John Campea. That's who you can blame. I haven't seen it. I am sort of
Like-
aware of what.
Who are we fucking?
John Campea is somebody that I've known for a while, and Nick and I were talking about this. He used to be on AMC Movie Talk back in like when I was in high school, and then he moved to Collider, and then he eventually moved to his own, talk show on YouTube. He leaked a picture of something from Spider-Man that was a big deal.
He's just the one that leaks stuff. I just didn't hear the name that you said.
Even
So
from their own trailer, though, like, could you imagine being in the theater and Doc Ock and Green Goblin show up? Like, I wish I didn't know that. I feel like they took that from me.
I mean, Alfred Molina blew that. That's why they showed.
That's why it was in the trailer because he
That's
blew
why
it.
they
Now it's the poster too.
Yeah, but they showed Doc Ock because Alfred Molina back in like April was like, "Hey, I'm in this movie. I'm a slut. I'll do anything."
I don't like that. I wish I could have been surprised.
Well, tell Alfred Molina to shut the fuck up. Like I don't know. And then I was surprised. So it's Sony. I really believe it's Sony because I think Marvel would have kept not Molina talking, but a lot of that stuff under wraps. Save Goblin for the screen. Just showed Doc Ock.
Yeah.
But I think a lot about the movie is known, and it's
How,
very
um,
unfortunate. I wish
how
I
relieved-
knew.
How relieved must Tom Holland feel that someone else ruined the movie?
And he
for him?
doesn't stink as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't he trying like this day still to act like it still
Yes.
hasn't been spoiled?
He's like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Who are they?
People believe me. They're not in it. I'm telling you guys.
So I didn't go. I immediately blocked everything Spider-Man. I don't want to see anything Spider-Man.
I'm not looking at replies at anything on Twitter anymore.
Nope. It's just I don't want it spoiled because even though it's the worst kept secret about what we're talking about, seeing any footage of them, any pictures of them would kind of ruin, even though it is possible worst kept secret, even though nothing's confirmed. But anyway, Campea leaked this picture that he thought was fake. Nobody's
Yeah.
confirmed it's real. But
So even if they're fake, they get clicks. So
yeah, and he's like,
you
I don't
put
know
all
why
the dice on it.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know why I leaked this. But I also did get 3,000 followers overnight. It's like, you suck, dude. Fuck you.
It's a game.
So
how do
we
you-
are.
When I ask you, how do you avoid Spider-Man like with blocking just spoilers? We're just blocking Spider-Man. I got an Eternal spoiler from an OSHA search.
Yeah, I don't
OSHA
know.
was trending, and I got a got an Eternal spoiler.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That sucked. Which, just one more thing, because before I do want to get into our topic, because we do have a lot. We're almost 30 days away from Spider-Man. I've made it this far without having something big spoiled, and I just really hope it stays that way for everyone out there. I posted the today I posted the poster and warned everybody who's a follower to, hey, really just avoid searching or looking at anything Spider-Man, because there's a really good chance somebody's going to spoil it for you, because that's the world we live in. But one more thing before we get to that, it's Disney Plus Day on Friday today, and one thing that I care about, that I don't know about if any of you care about, is that IMAX ratio is coming to Disney Plus. So
You said that. What does that mean?
So the full screen, it'll be full screen.
Oh man,
Mhm.
can't wait to not notice that.
It's just frustrating because you buy the Blu-rays expecting to get this, and they never give it to you, and now it's on Disney Plus. It's something that, like I said, I care about. I knew you guys wouldn't care about, but it's kind of a big deal, which it also shows a partnership with IMAX and the continuing that theater goers are interested in large format, for like No Time to Die, and I think Venom even, and Dune. Like all the ticket sales were a majority of them came from IMAX. So people are.
Did you see Dune in theaters?
I did.
Dune will probably be sick in theaters.
Which we'll get to. So I think that's all I have to talk about. So let us get into our first topic of the day, which is Marvel's latest film, Eternals. So we are here to talk about Eternals. If you have not seen the film, why haven't you? We're in, second week. You've had 10 days to go see the film. If you haven't, stop here or skip maybe a half hour and listen to us talk about Dune. But for now, we're going to talk about
Bob's brother
Eternals.
Brian, you'll listen anyway because you don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
He might have seen it. I don't know if he saw it or not yet. Yeah, he's just along for the ride.
Yeah, he is. You love it.
No Game of Thrones, but listens to our Game of Thrones podcast.
He got to hear the anger about how bad the season was. So I mean, if anything, we helped him. We saved him a series.
Well, speaking of Game of Thrones, Eternals was released on November 5th. Budget of $200 million. Opening weekend, 71 million. 162 global opening. Music by, I'm going to butcher his name, so it's just a Game of Thrones composer.
That's where you start with that comment, though. Speaking of Game of Thrones, you list a bunch of statistics.
Yep, that's how I do things
You
now.
said, speaking of Game of Thrones, November 5th. I'm like, what was the big Game of Thrones?
That's the day Ned died. I don't know if you guys know that or not. It's a big.
But it stars a former Game of Thrones alum, Richard Madden. Kit Harington is in the film as well. Gemma Chan, Angelina Jolie, Brian Tyree Henry, Liam McHugh, Don Lee, Lauren Ridloff, Barry Keoghan, and Salma Hayek. I think I got them all.
Forgot Kumail.
And Kumail Nanjiani. So the synopsis of the film is the Eternals.
Jack for you to forget his name on that in that movie, man.
He got jacked for like 20 minutes of screen time.
It was his own accord. It was his own.
He
Marvel didn't ask him to do that. He did it on his own. So the synopsis is the Eternals, a race of immortal beings with superhuman powers, who have secretly lived on Earth for thousands of years, reunite to battle the evil deviants. But everything changes when they learn about the emergence, which will cause the destruction of the planet. So this is a review. This isn't a deep dive into the movie. We're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and
this is not spoiler free, though, right?
No, it's not spoiler free.
Okay.
There is spoilers in this.
I just want to make sure before I did any spoiling.
Yeah, so like I said, skip ahead 30 minutes. I will put in the show notes when we're finished talking about Eternals, and so that you can listen to Dune. So I saw Eternals 3 times opening weekend, unintentionally. I saw it in our early screening. Me and Bob went for the podcast.
Sick invite.
What?
Sick invite.
What?
Dick invite.
Dick invite. You invited your dick, apparently.
Oh, never mind. Just cut that. Fuck it.
It's getting left in there. I'm very confused. Are you
Was
mad
Shane
you
not
didn't
invited to go to that?
No, he wasn't.
I was trying to fuck around, but whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't go Thursday.
Forget it.
I was too busy coaching championship volleyball teams. I'm sorry, Shade.
Yeah. So I was weighing. I'm like, do I just wait? And then I was like, let me call Bob. I know Bob can't go tomorrow. Let's see if he wants to go.
Yeah. He literally called me Tuesday to go Wednesday, and
Mhm.
the fact that I was free was shocking. So
Yeah, I was expecting a big fat no.
Yeah.
So I saw it 3 times. Twice in IMAX, once in regular. How dare I? I like this. I didn't
Did
love
you
the
throw
film,
up when you watched it in regular definition?
dude. I thought I was having diarrhea. It's just, I like this movie. I didn't love it. I thought it was good. I think it had a lot of great character moments. I think it had really cool action scenes, drug in the middle a little bit, and I think that was kind of the killer. But it is definitely an overstuffed movie, without a doubt. But I think it had to be. That's kind of just my off the top of the head thoughts. Nick, what do you think of the film?
I would agree with you that I enjoyed it. I don't really know how it's getting the hate it is, but it definitely was an I would say, stuffed movie, and it really kind of dragged at times. Like, just like the repeat of like, all right, present, the past. Now we got to see each and every person going down
Yeah.
the
We had to-
movie.
We had to kind of relive that every time we met a new character. You know, going into this movie, I thought it was like, okay, they're going to team up and then go fight. No, this is a team up movie. This movie's all about them just getting back together, and then in the end, they do fight.
Yeah.
You know, the bad guy or whatever.
Yeah, and some of it leads to some like good like scenes I like in the movie and stuff. But then other times when they're just moving all around, like one of the things I struggled to understand was like where everyone lived, and then like how it all tied up and how they were moving around at once. Kind of like, I guess we'll get later into it, but Salma Hayek's character and Richard Madden, when they kind of like reveal like everything that happened, I was like, wait, so he flew there,
Yeah.
flies back. I'm like,
Superman.
not a lot of time.
So what Nick's talking about, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, is that so they learned that the celestial Arisham is who, think of it as he's a god to them. They do everything for Arisham. The point of the Eternals being on the planet is to stave off the deviants and kind of remain there until there's enough energy from the
To
population.
build population, right?
The population will build, allow war and conflict, basically to maximize the population any way they can.
It's intellectual population, isn't that like the main thing of it?
Well,
That needs intellectual life.
Well, they needed wars because intellectual would evolve. So then the more you evolve, the more medicine you
That's
have,
what
the more
I mean,
population
that
you can
it
have.
is.
That was kind of like the argument.
Yeah.
So they wanted war because war spurs like
Growth and
adaptation, and then they're gonna like create medicines and things like that,
Yeah.
so that you can have more people alive at once.
Yeah.
They needed the energy, is what they actually needed, but they needed the population to create it.
Yeah, so they needed the energy for the celestial buried in the core of the planet to basically come alive and then destroy the planet known as the Emergence. Ajax, Salma Hayek's character, is aware of it. Icarus, Richard Madden's character, is aware of it because Salma Hayek tells him.
But the audience isn't aware of it.
The audience isn't aware of it until...
Or isn't aware that Icarus knows it either.
Yeah, until about... There's an exposition dump about an hour into the movie that kind of tells you all of this, but you don't find out about Icarus until about 45 minutes ago.
I think they pulled it off pretty good. Like I feel like it worked, and it didn't come off as like it came up kind of surprising. It wasn't like a complete shocker, but I think it worked pretty well.
I was surprised. RP was not. He kind of leaned over and said like he didn't trust Icarus from the start when it happened. But
yeah, I said to you, I was like, I just didn't. And I don't know if that's Richard Madden's acting. I don't know what it was. I was like,
Scottish.
We talked about that. Richard Madden might be one of the hardest actors to. I always go, is he good at acting? Every role he's
so
in.
They talk about that on one of my podcasts, and they said that. Is he? But they said he's awesome in The Bodyguard, which I think I might watch, which is a show. But
acting is iffy, but he's handsome, so you let
he
it.
Is handsome. But
Yeah,
I was
the guy's handsome. There's no denying the guy's handsome.
But I was like, this is the character of Icarus. So this is very much Icarus is very present, but I just like there was something about him and I just didn't trust him. So that's why I leaned over to Bob and said, I thought it was a good twist.
I liked it.
So
I wasn't ready for it.
yeah, so anyway, they gather this intelligent life, the Celestial's born, the emergence happens, and then it comes to a point where Ajax Samuel Hayek wants to stop this from happening and reunite the Eternals. Icarus doesn't want that to happen, so he kills not himself, but he leads Ajax to her death, and the deviants who weren't really necessary for this film, even though they're like the mortal enemy of the Eternals, absorbs Ajax power and it continues to grow, and that ends up being Crow. And then, spoiler alert, they all find out and they're able to save the planet. So that's kind of the plot of the Eternals, leaving out a lot of really good character moments, I think. So I kind of cut Bob off as he was starting to go.
No,
I'm
I
not
just
sure.
talk about the twist. You didn't think the deviants were necessary?
No, I mean, if you didn't, you would be very confused because the bad guy in this film, it's Arisham and it's Icarus. Those are and then obviously the deviants. The deviants are, you could have gone away without doing it, but the deviants are basically the reason that Icarus still unites with the characters, even though
I feel
he
like you
wants-
need the deviants to explain the Eternals' existence on Earth to begin with, though.
Yeah, because one doesn't exist without the other.
I thought they were kind of cool. They
I
looked
like
like
them. I
avatars,
like them.
but I thought they were kind of cool.
They looked like avatars. This was threw me off, but I thought it was a cool idea. Just like one of the many things in there that you could have maybe just made a movie or something on just in there.
Well, we'll get to that. What I
One
think.
of my favorite parts of the movie was when they were back, like in ancient times, just fighting the deviants. Like I thought that was really cool.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
me too.
but I do think that that's not necessarily they weren't essential to the movie,
Mhm.
but I think they do. I think they're a cool aspect of it. That is one of the.
I think you
complaints
need the deviants to. Without the deviants, you don't have a twist
exactly.
as well.
Because
So like, you
that's
need-
what I mean. If you
Yeah, because they need to have a fake purpose.
they're a good plot device.
exactly,
Yeah,
if they're not there, you're like, well, who's the bad guy?
Yeah.
Kind of like in Guardians 2, I was like, who's the bad guy? And then it was like, oh, it's Ego.
Nick on the ride home actually had a really good point about ego, where he's like, man, how many people have secret things hidden in the earth that we just don't know about?
Yeah, that's a good similarity. So Shane, I didn't really get to you. What did you think of the movie?
I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a good job of giving us the background without it too much being an origin story.
Mhm.
And like going into it, I didn't really know much about Eternals, but luckily, previously recorded had an episode all about it.
Listen to it on the ride to the theater. It's
Shameless
facts.
plug.
I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to going and seeing it again.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it 3 times, and each time it was better. I think it's just when you see a movie like this where it's overstuffed and there's a lot going on, a second viewing is not essential, but it's more enjoyable. I was
Mhm.
like, when me and Bob saw it, I was like, he leaned over at the end. It was like, that did feel long, and I was like, yeah, it did. And the second time, I was like, oh fuck, this movie's over. Because in my head, I'm like, all right, well, we're through the Amazon now. The movie's essentially over. But
Well, yeah. Now that I feel like I know a little bit more background on all the characters, I think I'd enjoy it a little more.
yeah, so that's kind of like our on the top, like just right off the top thoughts of the movie. I think it's getting a lot of heat unnecessarily. I do agree that there is a lot of some things to critique, and we don't talk about and we don't really take into consideration on this podcast Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm going to leave it out of here. I'm going to leave that section out of here. I just want to mention that I do think this movie's getting heat and hate. That's really not necessary and
More than it deserves.
more than it deserves and doesn't represent.
I think
the
it's just
film.
because it's different.
So
So
Uh,
do you, if you cut out, say, 20 to 30 minutes of when it drags, do you think it ups the score a little
Nah, because I think people still are gonna hate the concept.
bit?
and this what I'm going to say next is something that we typically don't talk about on this podcast, but I've seen it actually kind of mentioned a lot recently is that female directors in the action category tend to get more hate and nitpick reviews than male. Variety put out a piece on that, and also Chloe Zhao, coming off of her Academy Award win, kind of opens her up for that as well. Believe it if you want, take it into consideration if you want. Like I said, this movie is rated very low on Rotten Tomatoes, unnecessarily, I think. And I think a lot of people agree with that. Fans of the Marvel Universe. It did get a B cinema score, which if you're going to go by any score, that is the score to go by. Even though Dear Evan Hansen got an A minus, which that movie was fucking awful. Because cinema score is just, you get handed a pamphlet when you're walking out of the theater, and you hand it to the theater attendant as you're leaving. And it just surveys the crowd what you think about the movie, and this got a B, which was the lowest in the MCU. I do think it's a very decisive film in terms of the MCU. I do think there's going to be people like us that enjoyed it. There is obviously going to be people that loved it, but there's going to be people that I feel more than any MCU movie feel a little bit indifferent to it, where they like the characters, but it was just a lot to unpack.
So I know that this is one of the things that you kind of are going to bring up too, but like if you had to justify why it's not getting the scores that other MCU movies are getting, what do you think it is?
I think it is I think it drags. I really think it's that there's parts
It's
of
that middle, like that second act.
It's the Amazon, man, where there's a really cool action sequence in it. It just slows the pace down of the movie, and there's a lot of good character stuff there. But in terms of overall pace, I think that's it. And I also think, I think Marvel's done a really good job, between their shows, their movies and their shows, especially WandaVision and Loki, really opening us up for a spoonful of weirdness and things that we're not used to. But I do think that this, for some people, might be a little confusing or just hard to digest, and it wasn't their type of film. I think that might be it. Because other than that, it's got great action. It's got some good humor. And probably it was just not enough Kumail. That's probably why people were upset.
That's always every movie I've watched. I think that's been one of the problems in history. Air Bud, not enough Kumail.
Air Bud.
That's one of the things I was hearing. It was that he was one of the only like 2 or 3 characters who were pretty much trying to play something a little bit different, when so many of them tried to play. And they said this is really hard when you try to do with someone who's been alive for like a long period of time. Either they kind of have to be a little bit like crazy because just living for so long, or they come off like they're over it all. And they said too many people kind of went with, they didn't know that was directing or if that was kind of actor choice, but a lot of people kind of went with that same tone. And when you have so many people doing it, but
no, that is a really good point, Nick. It's tough. That's what I mean, Bob. It's just like, it's tough. Like the characters I thought were really cool. But it is, you put that immortal, it's sometimes hard to get behind, but I was shocked to see one dead within the first like 15 minutes of the movie. So
that was what I thought. The movie, like, I think Shane walked out, like said, like how Justice League kind of has to deal with like godlike level characters, and I thought they kind of walked a good line in this movie of like making them seem, even though they're eternal, that they're not.
That this was better than Justice League because Snyder Cut is the greatest film, except it
this
didn't
is
have
the
enough
blueprint.
Kumail.
This is the blueprint. This is the blueprint.
It did have a Justice League vibe to me.
Yeah,
you didn't have to explain everyone's backstory because you could do it all at once.
Yeah, that's what Bob said to me when the movie ended.
Plus, Cersei was basically Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
As far as her present day occupation and what she was doing and all that stuff.
I guess, yeah.
Apparently, if you live forever, you work at a museum. That becomes your job.
Yeah. So
no one ever wonders.
In the beginning of the movie, which we will get to, when she made that stagger, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be like an important part of the movie. And it's not at all. It's just, it's just there.
This will be important.
But Shane, what did you like most about this movie? And what did you like least?
Most, the characters. I forget her name, but the speedster.
Bakari.
I liked her a lot. I really liked Gilgamesh. Really didn't like that he died.
Spoiler alert.
Oh my god.
Spoiler, if you haven't seen the movie, don't listen.
That's my new bit, by the way. I know this is unrelated. Is that
But-
while I'm wearing a mask, I like to cover my mouth when I'm shocked. With a mask on, I go and do stuff like that. So I almost did that there, but I don't have a mask on. It's not funny.
Yeah, the characters definitely. I'm excited. I don't know if the second movie hasn't even been confirmed yet, right? But
So
I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Kit Harington.
so they've said something that they kind of do say a lot, but also before a movie comes out, the producer Nate Moore, I believe is his name, said we are building this to be a self-contained movie where a sequel isn't necessary.
So they're not gonna.
And then the end credit scenes
Together?
happened.
Right. But they say that with every movie. Well, we're just worried about this one. We're not worried about the next one. You know, there's a lot, and I think this is a launching point of the next phase of the MCU. I think it's going to be a very important movie to the next phase of the MCU.
Did you think this movie was the first time? It just felt like here and there, depending on the character, that it felt like they were kind of like trying to push in like things related to the MCU a little bit too much. Like sometimes when the name Thanos was like said, I'm like, okay, like it was just dropped and it didn't feel as organic.
I think so. I think they wanted to remind people that hey, this is in, Captain America lives in this universe, or
yeah, like
whatever.
RP, I changed my answer. My favorite part is first MCU sex scene.
That they shot in IMAX. This scene is which we saw it in IMAX, and you can tell the difference between when it's not and it is because the full screen and
because of how big RP's burner gets.
Completely
Very true.
Unexpected. Just enjoying the movie, and then bam, Cersei's getting plowed.
Yep. There was a thrust in there, but they filmed that scene in IMAX.
Completely dick down in IMAX, 4K Ultra HD.
Was there a full-on thrust in that scene?
There was a full-on thrust.
I gotta see this movie again.
There was also the MCU's first gay kiss, which
Yeah,
was a big
people are
deal.
super upset about for some reason.
Fuck off
Yeah.
if you're upset about that. Grow the fuck. So I will say this really upset me. When we saw it for when I saw it for the third time, we were in the theater and I heard in the row somebody say disgusting during that part, and they were being dead serious.
That's our crumb bum of the week.
Yep, that's our crumb bum of the week. I was like, when the movie was over,
We didn't plan that, but fuck that guy. That's the crumb bum of the week.
That's,
upset about the IKEA furniture in that home.
Fall collection, IKEA.
Yeah, people were upset about the IKEA comment though, Nick. They were because that's that. I've been to, like I said, I've been to the movies a lot during the month of October. I have seen that trailer a lot, and it always ends with the IKEA collection joke. Which I think if it wasn't in the trailers, that joke would have fucking killed. People would have loved it.
I think all these, like, I know he's like Rotten Tomatoes and everything, and it's one of the weirdest ones because it's like, let's take all these critics who grade movies a certain way and just make them into a really broad thing. And there's all these little things in this movie that maybe another MC movie might have them, but it kind of tips the other way.
Mm-hmm.
This one, they kind of finally went, you know what? It's rotten. Like under my scale, it's a rotten movie technically.
So Rotten Tomatoes is an infuriating concept. Not infuriating, but it's infuriating how many people misjudge what a Rotten Tomato score is. It's just taking the consensus, and it takes literally most of the times a snippet or from a review, and it gives it a grade. And if you read some of the fresh scores, you'll be like, why is this fresh? And if you read some of the rotten, blurbs, you'll be like, why is this rotten? But it's just saying that 48% of critics like this movie. That's all it says. But yeah, I agree, Nick. It's very nitpicky. I think it's just a very, very divisive movie. What did you like about this movie, and what didn't you like about this movie?
I liked the movie in general. I actually was it's characters. You said that before, so I was like interested in them. I liked Icarus. I liked Fastos. Shane said Gilgamesh. He was my favorite. I said that afterwards. Mm-hmm. Thought he was very funny. I'm a nerd and like the Black Knight, so I was big into Dane Whitman and like very excited about anything that Kit Harington was doing, so I wanted to see what was going to happen there.
I mean, as a Game of Thrones fan too, that had to be.
I loved Kit Harington and Richard Madden in the same movie in general. And then RP was sitting next to me, and I don't know if Nick or Shane know this, but I'm also like pretty gay for Harry Styles, so I was super excited when he came on the screen.
Oh, that's what I liked the least. When everyone started clapping in the theater, I hate that.
Oh, they did that? That
Everyone
stinks.
clapped for Harry Styles, and everyone clapped at another part. I forget what
For
other
Blade?
part. It was right. It was right in the beginning because I remember Bill was like, "Oh, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing."
That's
Yeah, he was bad.
such a Bill thing to say.
Uh-huh.
I didn't like, and these are the two things that I picked out immediately. It was slow in the middle. I was very distracted for the entire probably first half hour at the idea that what's her name? Hold on.
Because you were just staring at Salma Hayek.
No, the idea that Makari was in Babylon and
Oh,
using
yeah.
American Sign Language. That bothered me. I couldn't wrap my mind around it, and it distracted me for probably a solid half hour. And then at the end of the movie, this was the big one that RP just laughed at me when I said something about the amount of water that should have been displaced by that thing coming out of the earth would have caused a lot of damage, and I wanted to know what happened there.
We'll figure it out. We got damage control movie.
I said Australia had to have lost some coastline there, but they're just not mentioning it.
Is that celestial just going to be frozen through the earth forever
So
now?
that is almost a spitting image of the comic. It was a yellow celestial, more so out of the ground. But yeah,
Is it just there like a statue almost now?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that we're going to see this a lot.
But since it's frozen in ice, will global warming eventually thaw it out?
So
Was it frozen or was it marble?
Yeah, I thought it was marble.
So this is a great question because there's a scene where they show there's water coming off of it, which could still just be from the unit from
Displaced water.
misplaced water coming out of
Yeah,
it. It does kind of look like ice, but it also does look like marble.
Yeah,
But also, you could argue that Cersei's ice doesn't melt. You could argue that.
If it's marble, could I get it? Could I get pieces of it for my countertop?
They do sell them at IKEA Fall
I
Collection.
know a family who needs a brand new kitchen table.
But what if Cersei dies? Does everything she transformed turn back, or does it stay?
Shane, I'm not dealing with you right now.
Yeah, Shane, all right. Yeah,
Shane
Shane,
went to the-
you're the suit in Washington. You figure that shit out.
Yeah.
Man, I'm asking the hard-hitting questions, RP.
Yeah.
Shane, I bet
I
that-
know we had Geraldo
Well,
Rivera on the show today.
Well, Shane clearly would have gave this a rotten review because it
Listen,
didn't
I
go
need
into
to-
the
I need to
biology.
be good for the Eternals half because I have no idea what happened in Dune, and I'm just not going to talk during that part.
So
I don't know why you struggle with Dune so much. I really do.
I really think I have this figured out, but I'm going to save it till we get to Dune. I'll just do it now. So when we went to see Eternals, we were in the movie theater. Shane doesn't touch his phone when we're in the movie theater. Shane, how much of your phone how much time did you spend on your phone watching Dune?
It really wasn't. It was just so long. I think I just got bored.
He was like
I
looking at
stopped
the
paying
wall. He's thinking about like I should paint this wall.
Okay, well, I thought you might have been on your phone, Shane, because that's how you watch
No,
movies
I
at
was-
home.
I knew we were recording, so I was actually like trying to pay attention. It just I don't know. It just
Shane was also like very adamant that he didn't want to watch Dune until 2023 when Part 2 came out. And let's just watch the fucking movie. Nick,
I only wanted to watch the scenes with Zendaya in it, but then 3 minutes later, I said, I guess I can watch the whole movie now.
but then Zendaya wasn't even in it.
Nick, did I go to you already asking you what you liked and what you
Can I add one more before Nick starts? I
One-
didn't really like Sprite.
A lot of people didn't. I thought her character's tricky. I will agree with you.
I was kind of happy with what they did with Sprite because towards the end of the movie, I'm thinking, how the hell are they going to keep having Sprite be this age
hmm
and not explain why she looks older now?
So
I liked the character and I liked what they did with it, but just I don't know if it was the actress or if it was just like the whole angsty thing for 2.5 hours. I just didn't love.
but can you imagine being this
Yeah.
stuck a child? for
That's what I'm saying. Like I
entire
liked that
experience?
concept and that she was pissed about it.
But
But it
also,
just kind of got like old to me pretty quick.
wouldn't it be easier for Cersei to just change her appearance rather than make her human? Like, wouldn't that make more sense?
I mean, I
And
don't
then she
know.
was
I think
still
it's
angry
just,
when she was human.
Change
I
her
think-
appearance is an artificial thing. Make her actually human.
I
like,
think it allows her to still show up
And
because
fall in love.
and grow up.
I think it was saying that it took a lot of power. Like she still had some left over from what was it?
When everybody was
from the
unified.
Yeah, that she
from
had,
being
like, enough
connected to
to
the
sort of-
What did they call it? It wasn't a hive mind.
Unimind.
Unimind.
Yeah.
So in the comic books, Sprite is essentially Icarus. They swap places. Essentially, it's a little different, but Sprite's the villain mastermind behind bringing the Celestial
He
out.
loves a
kind of.
child.
So is that story from the comic run, the Neil Gaiman?
It's different, but it's very similar to Neil Gaiman's run. Yes.
Wait, they just switch roles. They don't switch powers, right?
Did he say he loved a child?
Sprite
What?
is just this. Sprite's the villain. It
No,
says-
he did not say he loved a child. No.
Okay, you said they flipped roles, so I mean,
No, I just mean that Sprite was kind of the bad guy in that.
I got you, RP. We're not getting into that pedophilia shit on this episode.
Sprite being the bad guy would have made more sense because
Her motives, yes.
yeah.
But they look at its devotion. Icarus
But
is
then
devoted
how-
to Arishem.
How are you gonna have like a boss fight with Sprite? Like she can't really take on the whole
Like
team.
Loki.
She's like, look.
All right, I cut Nick off. Nick, I'm sorry. What'd you
All
like?
right.
What'd you not like?
things that we already talked about. That I like the concept of how they had their powers worked and going like how they like made it robotic in a way and magical, like how they kind of worked. I thought that was unique and different, and it kind of I felt like didn't like you said, like the pacing threw me off with it, and then kind of like they had a lot of really good ideas, but I feel like they would just kind of stop short with them, and then it would make it come off kind of clunky, like how we're just talking about the ending where you have devotion and you're seeing like like he stays out of it for ideology purposes, and that's really realistic and higher concept.
Which
But
bothered
it
me.
comes off as like, oh, we want because it's MCU, like we want a big fight and see them all go at it with each other.
Mhm.
When they kind of went with like a more, about like ideals and how there's a lot of
Which
happens and realistically would happen and things. People would just stay out of it, but agree probably with one.
which
stuff.
suits the Eternals, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then kind of just wrap this up. What I really liked about it was I thought it was shot beautifully. I think it's probably the best shot Marvel movie. Great, like just a couple things kind of together. Really good action, like I said at the top. But I really, really liked the characters. That was the best part of the movie. My favorite was Makari. What I didn't like about the movie was the Amazon. I just really think it slowed the movie down. I think it was necessary, but I wish they found maybe a better way to do it that didn't fuck with the pacing.
Most of the Drew parts I thought were when it kind of slowed down, and I'm kind of like, wait, what's kind of going on?
It's like the Aztecs is where it starts.
Yeah, which took him that long for him to be like, you know what? This is the
Which the opening scene of the movie,
centuries to cut it off at.
the opening scene of the movie is great.
I jumped pretty fierce when that
Thing came out.
the
I
thing
just wanted
came
to say,
out.
I had one point. They kind of made Druig kind of seem like a bad guy a little bit,
Oh, in the comics, he is.
but I understood where he was coming from. Where like
Yeah.
he had like centuries gone by where he was told like he could stop all war basically on the entire planet, and he
Yep.
just had to sit by and watch it.
I think.
Well,
the
I think
whole
it was good in that regard where I kind of understood where everybody was coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
really liked how they handled him a
Mhm.
lot because I don't give a shit about him in the comic books. I could care less, and I really did. I felt for him, and I feel like they did a really good job in this movie of making you care about everyone. I changed what I didn't like about this movie is that the best characters have the least amount of screen time.
Mhm.
Makari shows up right at the start of the third act. Kumail is not in it for nearly enough. And I actually really like Fastos a lot, and he wasn't in it too much.
I really like Thena a lot too, though.
Yeah, she was cool, and I like how they handled her.
Yeah,
I really
she-
did. The Mad Weary thing was really cool.
Yeah,
So I think it's just like there's something. It's just I think of the overstuffedness of the movie that's really
Yeah.
holding it
Like
back.
I
from
didn't
that
really
next
feel
level.
like personally, I didn't feel like it was that overstuffed. I felt like they had to explain these characters. I felt like they didn't do a terrible job of doing it. It's not like they had to give everybody an origin like Justice League type situation. You knew where they all came from. They each got the kind of their own thing. Yes, could we have had more Makari? Could we have had more Fastos? Absolutely. But like I feel like the problem that people are having isn't that it's overstuffed. It's that they don't like these characters from the start. And then when it's 2.5 hours of them,
It's possible.
they just are like, oh, this is dumb.
Do you think people don't care that much about Cersei and Icarus, but more so the other characters?
I think people don't care because
It's not Captain America.
it doesn't matter. Exactly. It's
Mm.
not like
That's
big
a good possibility.
and it's like a team.
Which I
Like
like.
Guardians, you knew was going to fold into everything else at some point.
Yeah, which I think this is like I really do think this is going to be a jumping off point because these are two, I have to say, two of the best MCU end credit scenes I think ever. I don't remember being, and I had the first one spoiled for me, but not even that. Pip the Troll showing up.
You were fired up for Pip.
I was really, which I found out why the CGI was bad for him. It's because they had to change his look for a certain movie that has started production. That's the rumor, that a certain third movie changed his look and has just started production. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah. Wonder what
Which
that
makes sense because Pip the Troll and Adam Warlock are intertwined. But that was cool. And then Marshall Ali, fucking dude, goosebumps. I was like, holy fuck. That was the last thing I was expecting from that. But I do think the cosmic, and we're gonna be able to introduce Galactus. Like this is our first, so like Ego was a living brain in the cosmos, and he's technically celestial, but this is the next phase of the MCU. It's this is a good starting off point. I did have a couple more things like the tier. So we talk about the tiers of the MCU films and the top 5 Marvel movies, but we have spent enough time talking about Eternals that I think I'll have to save that for another podcast. I will just say,
we go real fast. Is this top, middle, bottom?
yeah, I do think a lot of people have said that this would have been better served as a Disney Plus series, but I know why they didn't do a Disney Plus series and they made it a movie. But yeah, so we've talked between the four of us that I have rated this as a middle, like a top middle tier MCU movie. So that got producer Nick going, like, what are the tiers of the MCU? And so I think it's nice to just bring it down to top, middle, and bottom.
Do another episode where we actually say what's in what tier.
So yeah, so we'll tease that. I guess that'll be our tease for the next movie, or that'll be our tease for another podcast. Sorry, guys, breaking it to you. We're live. I think we're going to take on that challenge, breaking down the tiers of the MCU. But before I do that, the writers of Ryan and Kaz Firpo said that the door is definitely open for world-eating villains, which is a reference to Galactus. So I think we all kind of know. A part of me thought that Silver Surfer might have been in the end credit scenes as well. But I think that's enough about Eternals today.
Are
Clearly,
they casted as Silver Surfer before we move on?
they have not.
Okay. I was just curious. Because that like leaks that there's somebody like the Harry Styles thing.
Yeah. I really want to see, before we go on to next, I really want to see a sequel. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for sure.
I want to see I guess who was it? Makari, Droog.
Kumail.
The rescue mission, basically. I want to see that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I mean they left us on a cliffhanger too.
And then Kid had Dane Whitman is his own thing.
Well, it said the Eternals will return, so
they left us without Kumail too. Like he says, "Sorry, I'm not going to help you in this final."
Oh no, he's
with Sprite. He's just living normally, isn't he? Or did they take him?
No, no, they did take him. They took him. They only took him, Fastos, and Cersei. Those 3. Okay. That was it.
And Sprite's a human now, so she doesn't matter anymore.
Yep. Nick, do you want to see a sequel?
Yeah, I want to. I think there's plenty of interesting.
Agreed.
Still,
I think they could even do a Disney Plus series now of just one episode per Eternal, and just give like a little bit of a backstory that wasn't in the movie.
Do like how they spent their lives, basically.
Yep.
Cool.
So a movie that I actually think is very similar is Dune. All right, Nick, you have the Jesus take the wheel.
Lord, I got my spice right here.
Oh my God, he's spiced up. Can we explain that for the listeners, please?
Explain to the listeners that Nick has a can of Stella that he put a post-it note on in which he wrote spice.
And what looks like a highlighter.
Yes. It's good marketing. I talked to Paul before this. We're about this.
By the way, Nick, I love that you're drinking Stellas. That's awesome.
It's
Classy boy.
spice. The spicy boy.
That's straight from Arrakis, bro.
All right, Nick,
All right, Nick.
take the wheel.
Here, so the plot of Dune, from the name that is really, I heard it said different ways, Denis Villeneuve. Why I
It
think
is-
I'm being
So it's
why I'm
Dennis.
asking.
It's Dennis Villanueva.
I was
Denis
gonna. That's what I
Villeneuve.
was gonna say earlier.
Yeah,
Say, is that how he would say it, Dennis Villanueva?
People call it Denny Nove, Denny Villanueva. He goes by a different name. So continue, Nick.
Okay, so a mythical and emotional charge hero's journey. Dune tells the story of Paul Arteris.
Atreides.
Atreides.
I said I knew I was gonna mess it up.
Nick's
I
a
got you,
fucking
Zach.
Harkonnen.
I've watched enough of these. Yeah, you are a Harkonnen.
A brilliant, brilliant and gifted young man born into great destiny beyond his understanding, who must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people. As malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply, the most precious resource in existence, a commodity capable of unlocking humanity's greatest potential, which I have stored into a can, can conquer their fear, will survive. That's Dune.
So that is
You
Dune
just read that
released.
off IMDb, didn't you? Because I just read that.
Yes.
Uh,
Hey,
re-
SRP, do you write your own? That's a little inside baseball.
I do sometimes. So Dune was released October 22nd, excluding in the U.S. It was released earlier, but on October 22nd in theaters and on HBO Max. Budget of 165 million. Opening weekend 40 million. Globally 331.1 million dollars, and a sequel is greenlit already.
So what was everyone's likes and dislikes of this? Because I thought it was from the beginning when I saw on Twitter, I felt like it was getting the normal, like, okay, everyone's busting on this movie, but as time I kind of went on, I think it's grew on a lot of people, and I thought it was going to maybe do same as Blade Runner, was it Blade Runner 2039? And kind of had the same thing, but I think it turned kind of around. So what was everyone's kind of overall with it? You think
Can we
it's
start with Shane?
Well, I-
Shane, what was your big overall? What was your big feeling on it?
I liked it. I don't know. So much was happening, and it was just so many parts just
I-
dragged.
Shane, you said it was boring.
It was boring. I still liked it though. I should have rewatched it before the recording, but I was busy today. I didn't have time to rewatch it. I really liked the cast though. The cast was incredibly stacked.
Mhm.
You know, you got Oscar Isaac, you got Zendaya for about 25 seconds.
That's pushing it.
Timothy Chalamet.
Can we say his name wrong every time?
Yeah, but like a different way.
A different way, absolutely a different way.
No, it was good. I got to rewatch it just because there was so much happening and there's so much lore and names of stuff that are just going over my head because I didn't know anything about this until watching the movie. I think that would have helped if I would have researched it a bit before watching it. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna rewatch it just to try and figure out what the hell was going on.
So I'll counter argue you with the research point of view. The three of us went in with no research.
That's not true.
Oh, you-
I've read
oh,
it.
you read the book. That's right.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
that's not. I had, and I think I've watched parts of the '80s one before, but it was so bad I turned it off, and then I forced myself to finish it today.
I saw a clip of it this morning. And I was like,
Dude,
oh,
I mean, if you have 2 hours and 15 minutes to kill, it is time well spent. It is like incredibly bad.
The
And if you
shield
like,
scene.
especially having just watched this one and going back and watching that one, and like lines are exactly the same and stuff like that, and it's just bad, like bad.
and that's what people were saying. They were hesitant about it. Like when I was like doing research after it, was that the movie was like, is this just a thing you can't do because it's so hard and kind
Oh
of
no, because that's not true. And I want to get back because I want to know what RP was going to say. But I texted the group. That's their shields. RP's holding his screen up. That's them fighting with their shields.
It's literally like a block.
They look like they're on like what's that game?
No, it looks like the Loki portal things.
Like no, yes, but it looks like Minecraft.
Yeah, that's what it does look like.
But so I looked up as I'm watching this movie. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. How like just bad this is. It looks like there's times where it almost looks like they're filming this movie on somebody else's set. Like it doesn't like even make sense. Like they were like sneaking into somebody else's set. So it comes out in 1984. Return of the Jedi comes out in 1983, and the budget for this is like $15 million more than Return of the Jedi. So there's no reason for it to be as bad as it is.
It all went to Sting.
It had to have, and Sting's barely in it.
Yeah.
I just remembered that I actually made notes for the movie while I was watching it. One thing I really liked was all the different ships that they kept throwing in, like especially the one that was like the Firefly looking ship, where like
I think it was cool.
Started fluttering. That was cool. I liked that a lot.
I forget what they call them, but something copter.
Yeah,
chopper or something like that.
It's like the Vibro.
We're on computers. I can look it up.
Yeah. I watched it with the subtitles on my second round, which I felt was necessary. So I think it's important to put this context to it. I was the only person to see it in theaters. I went and saw it in IMAX.
All right, RP.
Which I think it's a different viewing experience. I
think it would have been cool, but you don't have to brag.
I took myself for two reasons. One, I turned it on and I was like, this film looks beautiful. It's shot. I was like, I want to see this. And two, just so that I could force myself to pay attention, because this is, I will admit, it's a heavy movie. There's a lot of lore, at least with like, the MCU. There's like a point of reference for like the Eternals, but like this is there's nothing. You're going in. I went in without knowing anything, without reading or looking at reviews.
Plus, Timothy Chalamet in IMAX is always fun.
Well, yeah, Willy Wonka himself, Timothy Charmander.
The boy, as John Mulaney would call him.
The boy, yes. This is a star-studded cast. Top to bottom, some people could argue that took away from some of the movie because you want more of it. You want more of these characters that are in it for a short amount of time. But yeah, I went in when this movie came out. Denny Nuves, as some people call him, took a shot at Marvel. So naturally, me being the fucking fanboy that I am, was like, fuck this movie. I hope nobody sees it. What makes you so special? And he is pretty special. He has a really, really keen eye for direction. He did Blade Runner 2049, which I have not watched yet, but visually it's stunning. And he made a landscape that is not appealing at all very appealing. And you could just tell he had a passion for the project. And one of the things I saw on Twitter was that this is a part one, and people were criticizing him for that. And what fucking movie nowadays do you go in, especially a big blockbuster like this, and be like, yes, this is clearly, it's not building towards anything. I think this is a very self-contained movie. Watch it on its own. If they didn't make a sequel, yeah, it would suck, but there's a lot of unanswered questions for sure, but it's still a self-contained movie. But yeah, I really liked it.
About that, I think a lot of people, and that is, I would say, still a fault of the movie, and maybe it's Warner Brothers. They didn't market it as part one.
No.
So they said a lot of people who like knew the first like movie or read the book were like, oh, okay, like they could change their expectations seeing it saying part one, but everyone else was thrown off. And I mean,
I
you can.
guess
I like that though.
I like that it's a part one because they did they flushed out a lot of things. It just had a very, at that weak kind of ending to it. Very similar. I thought it was very similar to, if you remember when and I had a question on the like later about how you feel about movies that split books into two and shows. Do you think like because there's some
so.
that it works really well, but then I think of like this one had like that Hunger Games vibe where something happened and you're like, oh, but we have 30 minutes left because we got to fill out a 2-hour movie and
Right. So
we need to set some things up.
one of the things I read was that they had a really hard time figuring out where to end it. And I think they picked a good spot to end it. Yes, the last half hour is kind of long, but it got me excited for the next chapter of the movie of the series.
And then I again, I'm gonna compare everything to this '80s movie now because I sat and fucking wasted my time on it. But the '80s movie, that scene where like they cut this, so it's a 2.5-hour movie, right? They get to that scene at about the hour and 35-minute mark, and then the last 40 minutes are what is going to be this second movie.
Yep.
Just rushed through. There's some little fucking baby girl that shows up and she's super creepy. I know who she is because I watched it, but like she's not explained. She creeps me out. I didn't want to watch it anymore. And like I'm hoping that they take the time to really hash that character out so it's not just a creepy little baby that's talking to people.
I think
For my
they will.
research, that's a very important character. And I didn't
No, she's super important, but I'm like, I really don't want that to be like just like plopped in like they were there. So the whole '80s movie is narrated over by a princess, and she's just like, and then they learned the ways of the Fremen, and then boom, fast forward. Now fucking Paul's eyes are blue, and we're fucking going. We're moving now.
Yeah, no, I am excited. I am super excited to see part two. They put the legwork in to build this world, and that's something that I love with movies. What as world building.
I think that's why I liked it so much. Like that was the thing I liked. Like, was it long? Yes. Was it boring at times? Kind of.
Sure.
I think if it wasn't the actors and the actresses that it was, I think I would have been more bored.
Maybe
But
that's
I
why
like
that might have been why they went for big names.
That's what I'm saying. Like I was so invested in like who was on the screen, but like by the time the movie was over, I felt like I understood this world fairly well to the point where like the second movie, now I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I came the same thing, and I thought like director, like even though it got boring, it still kept that suspense and kind of like, okay, I'm still interested. Where's this going,
Dude?
Where is this going? The
That
suspense,
scene.
and that's directors.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Prisoners? Like that was one of his first movies, and that shows how he can just carry suspense.
Who is this?
This is the
Prisoner.
director.
I haven't seen any of his stuff. I mean, I saw
Prisoners.
Blade Runner, but I was kind of like hung over that day.
So that scene with the Bene Gesserit, dude, that was probably one of the most intense movie scenes I think
with the box.
Yes, I've like ever been a part of in like an action movie like this. I was so fucking intense, and seeing like, I know I saw it in IMAX, but like seeing that in IMAX, like the whole theater was like fucking shaking. Like it was awesome. I think he did a great job. And like, yes, there were things that like just creature names and people's names that are beneficial to have the subtitles on for things, but like I think everybody in this did a great job. The leader of the Harkonnens, super fucking creepy, super weird, but like I wasn't like anytime like something showed up, I wasn't like, oh, I was like, okay, like this makes sense. Like it wasn't like far fetched. And then the way they handled the exposition dumps, I think were great with like Paul's projector. I thought that was so smart.
They do that in the '80s one too. I think that's kind of just how it is.
Is it?
Possibly even in the book. I haven't read the book in 10 years, 9 years. Like I read it once. I have it. I actually might try to reread it before the second movie comes out. But
yeah, he said he wants to make 3.
well, then there's like a Dune Messiah. You said, right? It's
Yeah,
like
which is people have said is weird, but
who's your favorite character?
I really like Duncan, Idaho.
It's just a fucking badass name too. Like I don't. That was my answer. I don't even know if he was my favorite character, but Duncan Idaho is just fun to say.
I would actually say Leto. Nick, is that his
I
last name?
liked him. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta know all the characters' names now.
No, I'm just saying you're running because
You can't even say Atreides, so
Leto
I
Atreides.
do know Atreides and Harkonnen.
You Harkonnen piece
Doing my
of
research
shit.
is,
I think
is a bullfighter and bull in different languages, and that's supposed to show that.
Yeah, because
his grandfather,
his grandfather was a
That's why
Which-
it's-
which there's a reference to in the movie. There's the statues of like bulls and bullfighting, but
yeah.
I really liked his relationship with Paul, where he was like, he wasn't like that standard, like, you have to do this. It's like, well, if you don't really want to do this, you don't have to. He's like, I want to.
But it was also like, hey, look, this is how it's gonna be one day,
yeah,
and I don't want it either. But like,
it is
I don't
what it
remember
is.
exactly how he words it, but he's something like he says like, hopefully one day you find your way
Mhm.
back to this or something. I forget how he exactly.
Yeah,
he
he
wor-
said maybe one day you'll find your way back to
Yeah,
wanting
that's
to be
very-
in
that's cool.
the throne. His mom
Also,
kind
I-
of stunk.
And I need to say the
I
best.
don't think I liked any of the Bene Gesserits.
I needed the best description I saw of Jason Momoa was. So we're reading it. Jason Momoa rules because most of his roles are just like, what if there was a dude who was fucking rad as hell? You really need rage when you do it that better than anyone. And since another one said Jason Momoa really unparalleled at playing a guy who has the temperament of a loyal dog and is also the deadliest man alive. That's like he is a human form of a golden Labrador.
That is the most accurate description I've ever heard of Jason
Oh,
Momoa.
Also, like when you first see him, one of the first things he says is "my boy," which
Yeah.
you 100% know he like ad libbed that, and it just,
I,
I love
No,
when he was like put on-
legitimately, that's the line in the 80s one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when Duncan Idaho comes into the room, same, because a lot of them, like I said, like same scenes, same lines for a lot of some of these scenes. It's weird.
Which I
saw
mean, I
this
guess if it's off a book, you know.
I saw this one post on Twitter. It was like they definitely made Jason Momoa shave his beard to make me fall in love with Oscar Isaac more easily, and
He
it
looked weird without a beard.
but Oscar Isaac looked fucking good.
I also liked Kyra, like the in-betweener from the government.
Yeah, the I know who you're talking about. The one that it's not the something of change.
The African American girl who was a Furman.
She was a Fremen, yeah.
Fremen. I thought she was cool. I thought she was really cool. There was a lot of
She helped them into like the tunnels and stuff. She kind of
like,
helped them escape.
everything about this movie was really cool. Like this for me is like an 85 out of 100 movie. It's really good. I liked like everything about it, like with him spitting at when he meets Leto.
That was really cool to me, yeah.
Because it's like that's a sign of respect. Because
And like Momoa had to like step out and be like, "Hey, he's offering you his water. Like he's offering you his."
which is a huge sign. All the technology, all of the like the equipment, the gear they wore, like all of it had a purpose. It wasn't just cool to be cool. Really liked it, and to be able to make a desert landscape appealing and just it's really hard to do. Very well done.
Dr. Kynes is the one.
Kynes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm saying Kira Kynes.
I was super confused at Jamis, who was the kid, the Fremen he kept seeing in his dreams that he eventually kills at the very end. Because I thought that guy was going to be like super important.
So Nick,
And
do you
then
have any
little
questions?
Timmy Shams killed
Oh,
him.
my conscious notes from exposition for this was about some of your favorite characters. When they're going over the suits, I went, they seem very hard to get on. What if you need to poop? What happens then?
Well, that's just
Problem with
fertilizer.
the suits, because was it
Well, you poop in them.
I think so. Was it
No,
dry?
you're supposed to.
did they recycle the pee too? Like they do the
Nah, it disperses the pee, but you pee in the suit.
But
I
also,
thought
what's the planet with the spice where they need the suits? What's it called?
Arrakis.
Arrakis.
I felt like sometimes they had suits on and sometimes they didn't.
Well, when they were in the city, they didn't need them as much because the city's like covered. The city has like a barrier on it.
I felt like there were times where they were just out of the city and they just weren't wearing the suit. Like they would just have the.
Well, they were near the. Well, like,
They were close. Yeah, that's like if
Well-
if you know you're gonna be in the desert.
yeah,
Okay.
those are also the Fremen.
Yeah, it's a
they're-
Fremen
They
suit.
might not have that. They just have the thing.
In the 80s version, so like you know how he shows up in the suit and he has his like legs tucked into his boots or whatever they say he does, and then Dr. Kynes is like, and they said that he would know the way of the people without being told or whatever. In the 80s movie, there's like a ton of inner voice, it says, and it's like I watch the captions on, so it'd be like inner voice. So like he shows up and he's like, oh, it's just felt like the way you should wear it. And then in the inner voice, it's like, and he would know the way of the people without the 80s movie wants to be Shakespeare so bad, it's fucking insane.
I had a scene in this here too that it was like, okay, we're trying to be Shakespeare a little bit right now.
There is definitely some slow points.
Like everybody's a British accent. They say things like super Shakespearean. It's fucking wild.
Like the attack on the city, man, that was really cool too. The attack on.
I think it was so well directed that's why you're like, oh, it can end here.
Yeah, yeah. Like
I thought that's where they were going. I thought they were going to end it with, Paul and his mom just kind of like being in the desert.
Yeah,
just like cliffhanger stranded.
Even that tent that they had was collecting their tears and sweat, which I thought was so cool. So Nick, the one thing that me and you kind of talked about, and I'm like I said, I'm not sure if it's in your rundown, is that part of this movie that I didn't like is because when I go and see a movie, I want to understand everything. And kind of when I read Scott Snyder's Batman run, there was things that were over my head. And the visions, which I know that they're dreams and their visions, they don't always come true, but I always kind of felt like I was missing something. That I'm like, okay, like I said, they're showing the guy that we think is going to be important, and then Paul ends up killing him right before the movie ends. Me and you kind of talked about this, and you shed some light on this for me. Can you share that with the audience?
That was one of like my weakest thing was how they even hyped them up in this situation and how they fight each other. I'm like, oh, this is was supposed to be his mentor, and he kicked his ass like pretty easily. But the power that he's supposed to have is that he gets to pretty much live realities in a way. His dreams are almost like he's learning possible futures, and as the closer he gets to it, it can change into the direction it is. That's why some of the things he's learning from people, but he's not sure if it's going to be the actual future, or is it kind of like, kind of a vision into it, the possible future. So it's almost like he's constantly learning, and that's why they see him as this prophet. And that's why when you're confused, you're like, well, wasn't this guy teaching him ways, but in a way that vision was able to teach him how
he taught him through the dream and not through the actual teaching.
Yeah, that he can learn. That's why he's saying, like, with the suit and just knowing it, like these dreams that he's having is almost like teaching him, giving him a knowledge that people don't have. And that's how it was. So how that one character he ends up fighting at the end, how the one dream he was his mentor, and then it changes to Zendaya at like near the end of it. So that was how he learned how like to navigate the sand properly and truly like be easier to survive out there.
I'm curious how in the second, because like he has to ride the worm.
Yeah.
Like that's like that's a big thing. Like he has to learn how to do that. And I'm curious how they're gonna do that without it looking very.
Oh, even the one when they showed at the end with the guy riding, I'm like, oh, this is kind of.
Yeah, but like that was like from a distance, so like you could. Yeah. I thought they got away with that pretty good, but like you're not gonna be able to show fucking Tim Tam Chalamet, right, doing that. I'm trying.
Yeah, like the one battle sequence they showed just popping out like a Pokemon, like.
Yeah. Well, in like the '80s one, they like rides it, and then they just cut to like him clearly standing on like a platform and like acting like he's riding somewhere.
Yeah, that definitely helped me understand it a little bit. It's not that it's not things that are going to happen. It's potentially things that can happen, things he's learning, different realities. And I think Sexy Wonka did a really good job of portraying the emotions he was going through for someone who is new to that power. Yeah, like I there's things about this movie that are obviously like I could be super critical on, but I really enjoyed this movie.
Can we take a minute to talk about the worms?
Yeah.
Because aside from looking like a giant butthole, they were super cool.
Kind of like sexy butthole though, right? Like,
hold on, I pulled up a picture just to show you guys what I'm talking about. That
They look like a
They
butthole.
really
They look
like
like a sphincter for
right
sure.
deep
Absolutely
in
look like a butthole. Yeah.
my butthole. But dude, the worms were so cool. That was one of my favorite parts. I loved just how they did the worms. I just thought they were cool.
Some people might call them a sarlacc, but
Yeah, some people might call them a sarlacc. Nick,
the
what's
word
on?
sandworms came first. Star Wars fans.
Yeah,
I mean that gets to my next point is that the mere like similarities between that and Star Wars. That this came out first, and that do you think there's anything in this that they like seeing that you're like, oh, this actually kind of works better than what Star Wars actually did? Like,
I think Arrakis works better than Tatooine. I think it's cooler than Tatooine.
It always comes back to Tatooine.
But wait, Nick. So what you're saying is, Star Wars steals from Dune, much like J.K. Rowling stole from Halloween Town.
Yep.
pretty
Yeah.
much, you know.
I think J.K. Rowling did a lot more thievery.
Well, she probably stole from Dune too. The worm's probably the size of the basilisk.
Yeah, she's a rapscallion in that one.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you want me to run down the list of similarities?
I wrote some down. Like I thought with the Force, like the voice and the Force.
voice and the
Yeah,
Force.
I thought the
Yes.
voice was like I got it a lot faster, and it was way more terrifying. Like they show kind of like the Force never shows you what it feels like to be under the
Yeah.
Force, like, and they film it like, oh, this would be terrifying if
I
someone.
like that for the first scene when he's trying to use it and they like cut to her like almost grabbing the glass and she's like, no, you were close. You almost had me. Like, so
No.
you have Tatooine and Arrakis. You have the worms and the Sarlacc. Spice is a whole thing in Star Wars 2 with like
Spice
the
Traders.
Kessel Run and shit like that is all spice runs.
Yeah.
You have water
When
farmers.
Poe was delivering spice. Was he all about sand power?
He wanted sand power.
Well,
Yeah.
that's right.
We have land power and water power, but we need sand power.
Is riding worms sand power?
It's
Like,
Leto Atreides, Poe Dameron, Spice.
So you have like you have your moisture farmers on Star Wars. You have the Fremen or the devices on Fremen that collect the dew, the Empire and the Imperium, the
is
Rebels.
the Baron Darth Vader or Jabba the Hutt?
Spoiler free mode right now.
No, I thought I didn't want to say it,
I don't
but
want
when
anything
watched
for
said
part
they
two
said it in the movie.
They don't say that, do they?
I was so confused.
So-
I
Yeah.
kept watching things saying they said it.
Nix that, bro. Just nix it. We're not talking about it.
So is House Harkonnen and the Emperor working together, right? Because that's why
Yeah,
they
so
attacked
the Emperor sets up the Atreides
Yeah, that's
by
obvious.
giving them Arrakis, and then he helps them. So that there's your stormtroopers too, right? Because he gives them that other army that's like the Sardaukar or whatever they were called. It's spelled weird. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sardaukar.
Yeah.
But so like the Emperor gives them that. Those are his stormtroopers. Like there's a lot of shit. It's pretty.
George
Excessive.
Lucas is a genius. Genius.
You guys all saw what happened when he had to make his own movies. People rolling around in the lilies and shit.
What about when he went back and
Maybe maybe that's why he says I hate sand. Maybe that's why. He's like,
maybe
"Fuck you,
that's
dude."
why. Maybe that's why. There's another thing. Oh, fucking Luke and Paul just being like the fucking saviors, the chosen ones.
did Timothy Chalamet kill everyone, even the women and the children?
Nah, because he's Luke. He's
That'd be a
Luke.
parallel.
Timothy Cinnamon Butt did not kill women and children. He let it go. Our moderator is very serious at the moment.
I was trying to look up. I was so confused because I was watching reviews on it, and the one spoiler we're not saying, they said it in the movie, and I was like, wait, when did they say that? I'm like, that's
I'll
kinda-
rewatch it. I don't know that they did.
I'm
I'm,
like,
not
that's
going to
a-
say it on here because I don't. If they didn't say it, I'm not spoiling it for Shane and
Yeah.
Arcadia.
Well,
But I was
Shane,
like, oh,
Shane, will,
it takes a
Shane
while.
will watch part 2 at the movie theater, half paying attention too.
No, like this is actually like kind of get me excited to rewatch it because
I was gonna say Shane's like, I think I understand this now.
even if you watch it again.
It's because Shane's a senator, and so the second they were starting to do politics stuff, he's like, I can't do this, not on my off time.
That's
Is Dakota, Idaho just Han Solo?
Basically, yeah. But he's
Duncan, Duncan, Idaho, not Dakota.
Dakota.
Oh, it's Dakota. I thought
Dakota, Idaho is 2 states, Nick. It's too much states.
that would be a Star Wars name.
Yeah.
A mysterious girl he has to get to.
I thought that was handled really well, and marketing really sold the shit out of Zendaya being in this
That's
movie.
what I mean.
They
Not
really-
doing it was part 1, and Zendaya, they just kind of.
Well, he said Zendaya will be the lead in part 2.
They really duped us though. I thought Zendaya was like the lead of this movie, and she was in a total of what 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. So the thing is, you know, I'm actually a really big Timothy Cucumber fan. Like I really am. I'm a big fan of his.
How long to think of a funny last name?
I
Dude,
couldn't.
it's
think
so
of it.
hard. I've been doing it the whole time. It's not easy.
So like I wasn't, and like, yeah, I like Zendaya, but there was also Josh Brolin. I'm a huge Oscar Isaacs fan. I really like
Yeah.
everything he does. Rebecca Ferguson's fucking cool.
I don't know. Like I haven't seen that many Benedict Cumberbatch movies. That was my Timothy Chalamet one there because I was just naming long names. Yeah, I just was gonna call him Cumberbatch and then I just went with Benedict. I fucked that up. You can cut that. I haven't seen that many Timothy Chalamet movies other than The King, I think. If that's even what it's called.
So I have seen Little Women, which he was fantastic in, and I watched one other thing with him, and I forget what it is.
I'm definitely going to jerk off to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but that's another story for another
So,
day.
so have I talked about this on here?
I don't know that we have on the podcast.
So I was so against Willy Wonka, like the prequel, and then I saw a leaked set video where it's a musical, and I heard him sing, and he's pretty good. And I'm 100% on board now with
Yeah,
this.
because he's singing, so your butt puckered a little
Yeah,
bit.
so he was like, he's
You
like,
you reacted to him singing like I reacted to Harry Styles at the end of the Eternals.
like it was like I was like watching. It's like time to show my world my recipes. I was like, oh,
RP, I have not seen a single thing he's been in besides Dune.
he's a lot of indie films.
Call me by your name, Lady Bird, The Boy, Little Women. I haven't seen any.
That was what made him. Like, oh.
Yeah,
I
he
didn't
was.
see that one. I remember that going on Oscars. That's the Peach movie.
Yep. So
Missed my favorite
Don't eat
actor.
the peaches.
what's that?
Missed one of my favorite
Don't
actors.
eat the peaches.
Stellan Skarsgård, the Baron.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Vladimir Harkonnen.
I love him.
Which another tie between this and Eternals. His son
Yeah, I saw that.
played Crow, the voice of Crow,
Yeah, the guy who.
the bad guy in the Eternals. That
I was like, who's the, that was the
deviant.
deviant that was like
He said his
evolving.
name, like,
Shane, The King, I think I'm assuming it's still on there. It's on Netflix. It's basically the story of Henry V. I don't know
Okay.
if you know that like history. I mean, it was a Shakespeare play too, but
Okay.
that's a pretty solid movie with Timothy Chalamet.
Worth the watch if it's still on there.
Yeah, I liked it. It's long. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's like a historical drama, but like it's interesting.
I'll check it out.
And then fucking Robert Pattinson shows up being some super Frenchy douche dude.
That's what he does best.
But it's like a very like serious drama movie.
Y'all
Okay.
ready for 3 hours of Batman?
Check it out.
All 3 hours.
3 hours of Batman with way too many villains.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a villain every 6 minutes.
Nick, anything else about Dune that we want to talk
Hold on,
about?
it sounds like we're wrapping up. I have 2 more notes that I actually thought were really funny. Like when I just found that I had notes and I
It
forgot that
better be now. You hyped them up. You
I
should
wrote,
set their notes.
I saw naked Oscar Isaac with like the smirk emoji, and then right underneath it, dead naked Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
when he
But
blew
that
the-
scene was really cool.
He had naked Oscar Isaac with a smirk emoji, and then he had dead naked Oscar Isaac with a.
sad emoji. See, look, it's
I was
sad.
no, I was gonna say with
So the one thing
what
I
is it
had,
that people use with an eggplant and water?
so the one question I have is, you remember when Paul's in his room on a track or on Arrakis,
Trinity?
and that hunter killer comes in
Yeah.
and stops at his eye? Why does it stop at his eye?
Because it
If it's
stopped
sti-
moving.
Did he stop it?
Kind of like he like slowed himself down. Like he stopped. He's like super well trained remember when they were fighting earlier on? He's like, I'm not in the mood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in the book and then in the other movie, there's like a scene where it's not that guy. I forget that Josh Brolin's character. It's the older dude, the guy who tries to resign after the hunter killer thing
Yes.
comes in.
Yeah, yeah.
He says like how he's the best trained soldier he's ever had
Gotcha.
because he's like very like he's good with all that. And so I think the situation there is that like he completely like shuts himself down so it doesn't even like sense him anymore. Like that's how like stopped he is. And then when it senses the motion of somebody else, and that's when he grabs it and kills it.
That makes a lot of
And
sense.
that's
See,
where I can tell you, like this is just the other mirror. His character's kind of supposed to be mirroring that. Like now how they keep him focused on that little rat and the whole exposition that it learned how to survive in the and on that planet, that he's like that. He can naturally adapt to it. And that's why he hides in like that bush and like when
interesting.
that scene in a way, and it kind of like he says makes him freeze like still.
See, there's like a lot that you do have to interpret. Like for me, it was just like this is weird. It's just like a weird vision thing, but that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's like think of it as like a motion censored
Yep.
thing, and he
Yep.
just froze himself so much that it couldn't pick him up anymore.
That makes a lot of sense. So Nick, if you don't have anything else, I think we should probably.
I guess one question was, anyone have now that we talk how lovely the 1980s movie sounds, is there any books that were adapted that were pretty bad that you think could get a second chance? Because it seems like a lot of reboots, like you do things everyone was beloved and everyone criticizes, but the ones where it's like a kind of a bad first attempt, sometimes when they get the second to go around,
My big one's the Percy Jackson series.
I think that one really.
They fucked that up pretty fierce.
Now, does Nickelodeon would still have that, or
I don't know. Is that Paramount?
I guess
No, it's Disney. They're Disney Plus. Disney Plus Percy Jackson series.
Oh,
Is
okay.
it?
Yeah,
They should make a TV show for that.
They are.
Oh, they are. Oh, perfect. Yeah, fix it. There you go. They're getting this. I didn't know they were getting a second round.
Yep, they are.
Rick Riordan just making tons of money.
He's involved in it too.
What were you gonna say, Shane?
I'd like to see them give another go at Clash of the Titans, because
Third time around.
I enjoyed the first movie, but then I felt like the second one just.
I don't think the second movie needed to be there. I think that should be a standalone film.
I'd rather it be a series though. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, that could be
Just
cool.
'cause I like all the Greek mythology.
And yeah, you do like a Jason and the Argonauts type thing.
Yeah.
You can make that work.
I don't know.
I think, and this isn't a book, and I actually like the original film, and I feel like it could have kept going. Prince of Persia, I felt like, is better than it gets credit for. I like that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I never watched it.
So automatically I like it.
What's that?
That it's got Jake Gyllenhaal, so automatically I like
And
it.
Jenma, I forget her name, but she's in Clash of the Titans.
Mhm.
She's hot. In case you didn't know.
I don't know. I think everything that I like is either a standalone movie that works. In terms
Or it's already
of
been
books
fixed.
I've read. I mean, maybe I think the original outing of this is very successful, but I wouldn't mind seeing a revamp of it. Is The Outsiders.
I could do an Outsiders reboot.
I feel like it's time. I feel like it's been enough
Timothy
time.
Chalamet is Derry.
I feel like it could work. I haven't read that book in a while.
What about? I know you're a big fan. Do you like the original Lemony Snicket Series of Unfortunate Events
So
movie with Jim Carrey?
So that's the first thing that came to mind, and I do.
You also are a big Jim Carrey fan, whereas I'm not.
I am. I've read all those books, and I think the Netflix series did a really good job of telling that. So they did kind of get their second go.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, did you think that I think the Netflix series obviously was better, but I didn't know if you liked the original movie. Or not.
It's fine because it's 3 books in one. The first movie.
Like, that's already been fixed, but I was
Yeah.
just curious as to.
But
Like, where you were.
yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time. So I
Looking
don't know
at
how it feels.
the Golden Compass, but I think the HBO BBC show kind of is good enough. I
Dark
think it's
Materials?
so where it could probably be.
I have one that could be fixed. but the book hasn't been written yet, and it's the end of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Fat piece of shit.
So kind of to counteract, what's one movie that's really good based off of a book that you like that you
Doesn't need to be revamped.
that you would never want to see revamped?
Does it have to be a series like this?
No, it could be anything. Book.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Shutter Island's based off a book, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Shawshank too.
Yes, that also.
I would say Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think that is an incredible adaptation.
Mostly any movie based off a Stephen King book is pretty solid.
Yeah, that's what we have to say mostly. I mean,
Starting to think, yeah.
I think at least the first one.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Misery, The Shining. I mean, they're different. They all have changes, but I think they're all solid films.
What was the Doctor Sleep? I mean, that was a sequel.
I didn't see that. I didn't know if that. I didn't.
Good all to Ewan McGregor.
Was The Shining the one that he didn't like? Spielberg?
Yeah, because I think it's Stanley Kubrick directed The Shining, and he kind of just like fuck you and change things around. So my brother watched the whole documentary on that. I'll have to have him like give me the title of it, but basically it's like all about the making of The Shining and how crazy it was. So in the I could be butchering this, but I believe the story is like in the book, the Jack Nicholson's character, they drive like a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. And in the movie, when they're driving up to the hotel, they go past a car accident, and it's a yellow Volkswagen Beetle that got like totaled in a car accident. And it's basically Kubrick's way of being like, "Hey, fuck off, Stephen King," type thing.
That's funny.
Yeah, we thought Dune had a lot of like that. You can look up it. There's so much on that movie.
Oh,
Like,
I will add to Perfect as well. Probably I've never read the books, but Lord of the Rings, just as a.
I think a redo.
They can stay. I think they can stay. The Hobbit.
No, just I mean,
It didn't need to happen.
Lord
Lord of the
didn't
Rings.
need to happen. I mean, I'm talking about imperfect adaptations.
That's what I mean. Don't fix it. Yeah, they did it well. You don't have to do it again.
You did the opposite. It was like a good expedition. A Hobbit just is like, all right, let's tell you everything you need to know. Here's the whole chapter.
Peter Jackson was at a very low point while filming
that. That should have been like 2 movies tops, and they didn't need 3.
He wanted it to be 2, and they were like, "It's going to be 3," and he was like, "Whatever."
They were like, "Here's more money," and he was like, "Okay."
But Nick, if that's all you guys got, closing remarks on Dune.
I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm very invested in it now.
Yep, that's how I feel. I think it was shot really well. Really great job with the world building. The scary parts of the movie, like the bad guys, were scary and intimidating. And Timothy Chalamet was really fucking good. He was.
I also think, and this is something that I always do, but I think it really paid off for me this time, not watching anything leading up to this movie. I had 0 expectations. All I knew was that it was Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya.
Yep.
Like Josh Brolin popped up. I was like, "Oh fuck, Josh Brolin's in this. That's sweet."
Well, I knew what I knew
nothing.
It's like, oh shit, Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
I knew who was in it because again, going to the movies, you see the trailer a lot. But I still watching the trailer, I was like, I'm probably not gonna.
I don't think I saw a trailer. I think I just put it on one day.
I was like, I'll see it. I'll see it at home. I'm not gonna go, and I'm really glad I went and saw it. This is a movie that if you still can go see it in theaters, and worth a second watch at home on HBO Max if you've already seen it. But I'm really excited for the sequel. Glad I gave it a shot, and I think you all should too. It's a really good movie. Shane.
Amazing cast. Probably one of the best casts I've seen in a while.
Are you going to rewatch it?
I was just gonna say, plan on giving it a second chance, and I'll rewatch it.
Yeah, cool.
I'll try and I was literally paying attention as much as I could last time, but I'll try and laser focus on it.
I'm fucking with you, buddy. I'm glad to hear that though, because like I said, you were like, I'm gonna wait till 2023. I don't want to wait, and it's like
something that happens too with movies like this, where I would have watched it on my own time. Where when it has a deadline of like we're recording, I kind of get like this feels like homework, and I kind of tune out of it a little bit. So now talking about it, it's made me excited to rewatch it.
Yeah, this guy, because like for me, this was just I'm gonna see it out of pleasure because Nick was like it was kind of boring, and I was like, well, I want to see it, and then me and Nick were talking, and then we go, well, let's do an episode on it. So I
Yeah.
get that
I feel like
mindset.
once I have a deadline on something, I feel like
Well,
I'm watching more to take notes for it. Where I feel like Eternals, I didn't take any notes, and I felt like I had way more to say about it.
yeah, we didn't have to take notes. I mean, like, as when we talked about one movie. I was like, I'm not doing notes. I'm just watching this. And then when I saw this in the theaters, I didn't take notes. But I get what you're saying. But you're on a time clock with HBO Max. It's only on there for a little bit longer, and then it's off. So watch it.
Then it'll come back there, right? They'll
Probably.
have the rights to it, so it should pop back up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably
Like,
gonna watch.
I'll be able to watch this again before the second one comes out.
This is a movie that I'm gonna buy, and this is a movie that I hope they do a showing of it again before the second one comes out.
I don't buy movies anymore.
I'm
So
actually
I spent enough money on streaming services.
I've contemplated buying the book too. But Nick,
You can borrow mine. I have an old beat up copy that an old man gave me one time. It's literally it's like a story.
well, I have a 2-piece set of the history of Marvel Studios, the first 10 years, that I got as a wedding gift, and I just started it yesterday. It's a fucking behemoth, but it's
Let me
fucking
grab
so
this fucking book and so you can see how beat up this is.
Does it have an Edward Norton chapter in this first?
So
chapter?
I'm still in like the first 20 pages. Nick, what did you think about Dune?
I thought it would come away from it very changed, like the scale of epic of what you can do with certain sci-fi that I think is going to really change kind of some movies going forward. And luckily they took the gamble and looks like it's going to get a sequel. But still, I think that
It was already
I
green.
like the part one move, but that was kind of it. It still ended kind of weird, and now it makes sense. They really struggled to find where was the right, perfect spot. But the more you look into it, there's more and more interesting things, and there's things that like I said, like watching reviews and people breaking it down, and you're like, is it was this in the movie? Is this the sequel? Like there were so many lines that kind of revealed things that you can literally watch the movie and take away a different perception of what you're watching and see.
This was really a movie you reflected on because you were not thrilled with it when you watched it. For the first time.
I was like, this is like really suspenseful and I got to, but I get sometimes I turned it on and I saw how long it was, and then at the end of it came kind of like I feel like I'm just like doing a homework assignment to get that last section done, and that's what I was like. They're like, I'm like, okay, they did that cool. It like used the voice scene, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a half hour extra or 20 minutes extra of like film just to set up a second movie to get things in place.
Agreed.
The copy of the book I have is from when the movie came out in the 80s.
Let me see it. Hold it up.
It clearly is from a thrift store. You can tell by there's a little dot in the corner, and it was $2 apparently. And then if I open it up, from his personal notepad, because there's a T up there, Bob, I think you'll enjoy this, Tom. And he just gave me this book one day when I was at the car dealership.
That is a sign of respect from old men. So my boss gave me a book. That's
the only reason I read it. I wouldn't have read it otherwise, but he gave me the book, and I felt like obligated to read it.
The owner of the company I work for, he gave me a Batman book and signed it. But he came up to me and he sent me the trailer for Dune when it came out, and he said, "This is the greatest sci-fi novel of all time." He said, "This movie looks really good." So that was also what kind of pushed me to want to watch.
But you want to borrow this instead of getting it, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, at some point.
It's in shit condition, but I don't think it's
perfect. Which is perfect for me.
This might be completely unrelated, but the note in that book reminded me of a thing I saw that when Jamarcus Russell was the quarterback of the Raiders, he had they wanted to see if he was watching film, so they gave him a broken disc. And then he came in and was like, "Yeah, I watched it last night," like knowing that it wasn't going to work.
He didn't take it out of the case at all?
Yeah, he did take it out and notice it didn't work. So they all called him and like, "Oh, your disc didn't work." So
he was what a waste. But I think that about does it for us here. You're hopefully going to hear us next talk about the tiers of the MCU. But if not, it'll most likely be our Hallmark Christmas movie. That will be coming to you live on Christmas Eve. We're live broadcast that.
The
That won't be our next episode, will it?
I
No,
got
no.
a good tease of the Marvel list. I was doing research into that before.
All right,
Everyone has a
well
list.
then, Nick, you got to come back for our Marvel tier episode.
Even Men's Health ranked all the MCU movies.
No, that won't be. But I said, you know how things go with us sometimes.
With
But,
everybody together, maybe that might be the next time we can do it.
Yeah, it will definitely be. If we can, the four of us for that
The tier.
the tier episode, which would be coming out in a little bit. But I think that about does it for us here today. Guys, thank you for all being here and doing your homework. This was a little bit of a heftier episode. Nick, thank you for all you do to produce this podcast, especially when the audio sounds like a tin can. And guys, remember to rate, like, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And go see these movies if you haven't seen these movies. Eternals, Dune, both really good, both epic movies, both worth seeing on the big screen. So I think that about does it for us all here. Have a good one. Say bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Stand power.
Just a castaway, but I am lost at sea. Another lonely day where no one here but me. More loneliness than any man could bear. Rescue me before I fall into despair. I'll send an SOS to the world. I'll send an SOS to the world. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone gets my message in the bottle. Message in the bottle. A year has passed since I wrote my notes. I should have known this right from the start. Only hope can keep me together. Love can mend your life, but love can break your heart. I send an SOS to the world. I send an SOS to the world. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone gets my message in the bottle. Message in the bottle. Message in a bottle. Message in a bottle. Walked out this morning, I don't believe what I saw. 100 billion bottles washed up on the shore. Seems I'm not alone.